Morning, everybody. Thank you for joining us. Beginning with chapter 37, verse 24. Chapter 37, verse 24. The brothers see Yosef approaching. They stripped Yosef of his special coat. And now in verse 24, Vayikachuhu, Vayashlichu so'abora. They took him, they cast him into the pit. Vaborek ein bo moyim. And the pit was empty. There was no water in there. There's a very famous drush in the Gemara. Mayim ein bo hanachashim v'akrabim yeshbo. There was no water, but there were snakes and scorpions. It's obvious what the Medrash is sort of zeroing in on. Why in the world does the pasuk have to say there was no water? Generally speaking, if a pit is empty, that would probably mean there was no water. So why does it say there was no water? So the implication is there was no water, but there were other things. Fine. Why is this so significant for us? So presumably the basic pshat, if you go with that Gemara, the basic pshat is that it was a very dangerous place for Yosef to remain. In other words, it wasn't like he was going to die of starvation and who knows how long. He was probably going to be killed by one of the creatures in the pit. That was what was most likely. But there was an interesting kliyakar on this pasuk. If you look at the kliyakar on pasuk Chav Daled, he cites the Gemara. There was no water, but there were snakes and scorpions. Yimtzu lahem heter bazeh ki chashvu es meviti basam lebal lashon hara. We touched earlier in the week upon the suspicions the brothers had towards Yosef, and one of the main ideas that comes out of the Midrashim is they saw him as someone who was a talebearer against them to their father. And they saw him as a person who was regularly saying lashon hara, speaking ill of them. Umatzinu shibali lashon hara nidonim b'nechashim. There's an association between speaking ill and being punished by snakes. When the Jewish people were in the desert, it says this people spoke against God and Moshe. And it says in the pasuk that God brought on the nation the snakes. What's the significance of the snakes? Let it be that they who spoke ill are punished by the creature which represents speaking ill, which is of course the snake. Back to the story at the beginning of the world with the snake and Chava and Adam, etc. So it's an interesting kliyakar, because what the kliyakar is saying is they had very strong reason they felt they were doing the right thing, and they felt there was, even whether it be that they felt the fact that there were snakes in the pit was a symbolism that they were right, whether it be that they specifically put them in a pit that they're snakes because that was their outlook. But in any event, it sort of reinforces the idea that this was not sort of a moment of rage, and this was really that they, honest to goodness, thought they were doing the right thing. So it's an interesting kliyakar. Now, on verse 26, Vayomer Yehuda. So in the interim, they see a caravan of merchants coming. And all of a sudden, Yehuda has an idea. Verse 26, Vayomer Yehuda elachav. Yehuda says to his brothers, Ma betza, what is the benefit? Ki na'roges achinu, that we should kill our brother, v'chisinu estamo, and cover his blood. Ma betza is a really interesting phrase here. Betza is normally, as Rashi brings down citing the Unclus, betza is normally associated with monetary gain. Even without that nuance, betza is like, what do we gain from this? It's a little bit of a strange language. What's he saying when he says, what do we gain from killing our brother? Sforno on pasuk chavav, ma betza. Ma toeles, what's the purpose? Ki amnam hanakama techavin le'echad mishtayim. There are two logical reasons why one would take vengeance against another. Number one, im l'shalim la'osei hara, to punish the people who have done ill. V'nei bozeh ki na'roges achinu nishalim ra gam la'atzmeinu. Yehuda says, look, if we kill our father, if we kill our brother, yes, we'll be punishing him, but we'll also be punishing ourselves. Ki yichav libenu al misasov al achzari yibusenu nekto. We're going to live with guilt for who knows how long. We're always going to ask ourselves, did we do the right thing? Did we not do the right thing? So if the reason to kill him is to take revenge and punish him, well, we're also going to be punishing ourselves. So that's in the phrase, what's the benefit of killing our brother? In other words, if we do this to our own brother, it's going to be painful for us down the road. Now, there might be another benefit, and it might be preventative, that if people see how tough we are with those who cause us problems, less people are going to cause us problems in the future. Maybe that's the rationale. That's not going to be accomplished. The whole plan right now is to, kind of kill him in a secretive way. So there's no message to anyone else because nobody knows that we killed him. So what's our goal here? If we, one possibility is just punishing him, but it's our brother and we're going to feel so bad about it. And then if the purpose is to teach other people a lesson, we're going to be so secretive about it, that lesson won't be taught. Okay, so that's a very interesting sforno. Let's go to the Kli Yakar. It's the second Kli Yakar on Pasuk Chavav. Ma betza ki na'arogis achinu v'chisinu estamo. V'chol makom shenizkar b'mikra lashon betza medaber ba'anos mamon. So he's zeroed in on this point that we've mentioned from other Mefarshim already, that betza normally has a connotation regarding monetary benefit. V'kan so he says to them and says, I spoke to my financial advisor and he doesn't see a benefit in us killing Yosef. What? What would have been the benefit financially in killing Yosef? Okay, Nira Lomar Shekol Ikarakina Chaisa al Habachora. Says the Kli Yakar, you see from the fact that he says what financial gain is there here, it actually sheds some light on what they were thinking in the first place to kill him. That it had everything to do with the birthright. What message did the brothers take from the fact that Yaakov gave this special coat to Yosef and Yosef alone? Now, so the simple shot in the story is that he just had a special affection and it was emotionally challenging to the brothers. It was difficult for them. Okay, that makes a lot of sense. But the Kli Yakar says, it could be something else, that they took that as a sign that as far as Yaakov was concerned, Yosef was the primary child. And Yaakov had no qualms about giving Yosef something special that no one else would have. Now, why would Yaakov think of Yosef as the primary child? Well, you could say there was just something about him that he liked, or you could say something else. Who did Yaakov always think of as his primary wife? Rachel. Yosef is Rachel's oldest. So the brothers are very anxious when they see that his father gives a special coat to Yosef, because they think this means that he's going to have a special status. Not just his father's going to smile at him more than he smiles at them. Okay, whatever. They think he's going to be given the birthright. What happens with the birthright? The oldest boy gets, or the boy who's the oldest child gets double portion. Now, by the way, in a sense, he did ultimately get the double portion, because how many tribes come from Yosef? 2. And that has to do with shares in the land of Israel. So not him as a person, but his descendants really got that benefit. Okay. Therefore, it was not for nothing that they went to shepherd their father's sheep in Shechem, as we mentioned yesterday. Pen yixlu tsonam of karam machmas shebnei Yaakov lakhu tsonam of karam kishabo al Shechem v'loik pidu ha'achim afim yakumo lehem oivim v'yikol amare ba'amram ima katan shabanu yikach pishnayim gam lanu gam lo yiyeh v'yom siyashiv shiyafsid kol echad chelko k'dei shiyafsid Yosef shnei chalakim. So really interesting pshat with the Kli Yakar. Definitely not the standard approach. He says, why in the world would the brothers go to Shechem anyway? It was a place that there was a dangerous. Forget the history, like Rashi said. That's where they plundered this city. That was the city of Shechem. Why are they going there? It's so dangerous. Who knows what surrounding people say? Oh, It's Yaakov's family, those ones who plundered, the city of Shechem. Let's take their stuff. Let's take their sheep. So it's like so counterintuitive. Why would they go there? So the other pshat in the Mefarshim basically would seem to say that, well, God orchestrates events, and God made it. That's something very not fortuitous for Klal Yisrael what happened there. But the Kli Yakar says, they didn't care. They didn't care if their sheep would be stolen, because you know what they said to each other? They said, my gosh, Yosef's going to get so much of it anyway. They had already kind of written this all off. Kimasa shalakanoi v'achamda chabol l'fnei Shlomo. Kasher hochu l'Shechem, hirgish Yaakov b'tach bulasam. Yaakov understood what was going on with them when they went to Shechem. He understood that they were upset about what would be with the estate. V'shalach es Yosef lemor lech re'ei Shlomo chechav Shlomo tzomino oivim asher svivo sam. So Yaakov said to Yosef, go check out how your brothers and the sheep are doing. The Yosef Amar es achai ani mevakesh ve'ein ani choshesh el atzon. It's interesting. So when the fellow sees Yosef, he asks him, "What are you doing?" We had this. We mentioned, why does he even go through this whole exchange? So Yosef says, "I'm looking for my brothers." He's not interested in the welfare of the sheep. He's not worried about the money. He's worried about his brother's welfare. Okay. So the Kli Yakar says that what the fellow is now saying to Yosef is, my gosh, your brothers, they're shepherding the sheep at Shechem. Who knows what's going on with the sheep? So I don't know if we'll continue with this. It's a very interesting Kli Yakar. But the point is, this is what Yehuda is saying, Ma Betza. Is it really worth the financial benefit of killing Yosef? The Kli Yakar says because the brothers were totally focused right now on the birthright. And that's why they went to shepherd in Shechem. And so Yehuda is saying, if we don't tell anybody that we killed him, so, there's always going to be this question, what's going to happen with his share of the inheritance, et cetera, et cetera. I suppose that's how the Kli Yakar would understand it. So we're really not gaining much by eliminating him if we're going to kill him in a secretive way. So let's just get rid of him. Let's just send him off to the Ishmaelim. Because we don't win anything by killing him anyway. We don't gain financially anyway. But let's just get him out of our hair so we don't have to worry about him anymore. That would seem to be the Pshat Kli Yakar, but a very interesting insight regarding the word Betza. Let's just jump ahead now to chapter 38, verse 2. It's a really interesting thing, by the way. Medrash says, so Yehuda left. After this story, Yehuda leaves and he goes elsewhere. And the Medrash says, it actually specifically says in the Pasuk, Yehuda went down from his brothers. So the literal meaning is he went south. But the Medrash says, Rashi cites that the brothers looked differently at Yehuda from then on, because whose idea was it to sell Yosef? Yehuda's idea. And when they ultimately came back to Yaakov and told him Yosef disappeared, they saw how distraught Yaakov was. And so instead that Yehuda had an idea, he should have told them, let's just save him. Let's just abort this plan. And he didn't. And so he went down in the estimation of his brothers. And so he left. He went to another place. Let's just read verse 2 and we'll talk about it tomorrow. It says in the Pasuk, Vayarsham Yehuda bas ish Knaani ushmo Shua. Yehuda saw there the daughter of a Canaanite man, and the fellow's name was Shua, and he married her. It's a unique thing to emphasize in the Psukim that someone married a Canaanite. Is there a significance to that or not? To be continued. So we discussed this morning the Kli Yakar regarding the significance of there being snakes in the pit to which the brothers cast Yosef. We discussed the Sforno and the Kli Yakar regarding what Yehuda says to his brothers, what's the benefit in killing Yosef in this secretive way. The evening group will not meet tonight, but the morning group will meet.